13 past the hour. We're following breaking news. We have new NBC News exclusive reporting about Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's handling of military information in group text threads. 3 U.S. officials with direct knowledge of the exchanges say the leader of the U.S. Central Command shared detailed information about imminent strikes against Houthi rebels in Yemen with Hegseth. Now, he did so through a secure government system, but within moments, Hegseth then shared some of that information in 2 group chats using the Signal app on his personal phone. The Trump administration denies any classified information was shared by Hegseth. This morning, Hegseth defended his use of Signal on Fox.
What was shared over Signal, then and now, however you characterize it, was informal, unclassified coordinations for media coordination and other things. That's what I've said from the beginning.
Joining us now from NBC's is NBC's Courtney Kube, one of the reporters behind this exclusive reporting. Also with us is retired 4-star General Barry McCaffrey, an NBC News military analyst. So, Courtney, what more have you learned? And then there was like one communication between that the general and Hegseth that was utilized, authorized messaging, but then that was secondarily used by Hegseth.
Yeah, so this has been one of the biggest issues throughout this entire discussion about Secretary Hegseth and other senior administration officials communicating via Signal since The Atlantic published that blockbuster story several weeks ago. The big question here has been, was the information that Secretary Hegseth put on that Signal chat that The Atlantic published, was that classified? Secretary Hegseth, many administration officials, those around the secretary, have insisted it was not classified. But what we have learned here now, Jose, is that the information, some of it word for word, came directly from the commander of U.S. Central Command, General Eric Kurilla. He sent that information, and then only moments later, minutes later, the secretary copied some of that information word for word on his personal phone, on the Signal messaging app, and sent it to that Signal chat that the National Security Advisor Mike Waltz set up. Of course, now we know that he inadvertently also added a journalist, Jeffrey Goldberg, to that chat. But what we're also learning now, Jose, is that in fact, a chat that the secretary himself set up on Signal, he also included some of that information on that messaging app, on the Signal app. What's really critical here is the information came from a classified server, a classified system, and then was transferred to an unclassified system, this Signal app. And what is also critical here, Jose, is that the secretary, when he set that chat up, he included his wife, his brother, his personal attorney, and other officials who are close to him here at the Pentagon. Some of those officials have now actually even been fired amidst a leak investigation. So this answers one of the big questions. The information did come from a classified server, and of course it comes at a time when these officials who are very close to Secretary Hegseth have been fired amidst this leak investigation. But we're hearing from them slowly. They put out a statement over the weekend. One of them, Dan Caldwell, he was a senior advisor to the secretary and a close friend up until the time he was fired late last week, went on Tucker Carlson's podcast yesterday and said he still hasn't been told exactly why he was fired. So a lot of questions here still at the Pentagon. And I have to say, Jose, I have never seen a level of chaos in the front office up at the high ranks, the highest levels of the Pentagon like this in the 20 years I've covered the building, Jose.
How would you describe that chaos? In what way is that represented?
People who are close to, in the closest, the inner circle of Secretary Hegseth being walked out, escorted out of the building last week without any real information about what they are accused of, now going public. A senior Pentagon spokesperson writing an op-ed over the weekend, releasing it in Politico, essentially calling for the president to fire or call for Hegseth to resign. This level, I mean, we're only weeks into Secretary Hegseth being the top of the Pentagon, and I have never seen such a level of chaos at the closest circles, people really directly around him in anything like this ever, Jose.
Courtney Kube at the Pentagon, thank you so very much. Really appreciate it. So, General, let's get your reaction first to this new reporting that Courtney is bringing us.
Well, Courtney certainly gave an objective and complete wrap-up to what we're watching happen. This is not just about a major security error on the part of Secretary Hegseth, transferring from a classified communication system to his personal cell phone. You know, hackers can get onto your personal cell phone. They can get onto intermediate servers. They probably can break Signal itself. He knew full well what he was doing. He was warned to not do it. He was putting operational details that would place at risk U.S. Navy carrier pilots. It's really outrageous. But I think backing off that, this Secretary of Defense is acting like Rambo Major. You know, he's not serious in his purpose. He's trying to organize and manage a 2 million person operation, active guard and reserve. It takes 5 years to make significant changes. And it looks to me as if this is an amateur, juvenile, look at the cool secrets I've got, sort of a bro messaging system that's going to cause serious damage at the top of the Department of Defense.
What are the ramifications and repercussions to this, General?
Well, look, on the short run, it's just astonishing. I think the entire cabinet doesn't understand that they are targeted by foreign intelligence collection services from the minute they started to run for office. They were trying to break into their cell phones, watching their social media, surveilling them probably in real time with human agents. And of those official leaders of the U.S. government, the Secretary of Defense and the President are the two key ones. They're the only ones authorized to give orders to the armed forces. The chairman of the JCS, General Kane, the service secretaries, don't give operational orders, just those two civilian agencies. And both of them are not treating this with a serious purpose that it demands. This is the Nuclear Release Authority of the United States. So to have the Secretary of Defense having his wife in sensitive foreign military delegation meetings, including her and his brother and attorney on operational details, is just outrageous. He doesn't get the responsibilities that he's been entrusted with.
General Barry McCaffrey, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Good to be with you.